I am. My mother-in-law is making me salmon.
Well,
I know.
there goes some appetite.
I know. Alrighty. So this one. Yeah. So this one, we're opening up, and we had some really good guesses. This is in fact a male. So remember I spoke about those milk sacs? Not milt. That is a milk sac there. It's filled with that white. They have 2 of them in their body. And this one did have a chance to spawn because normally they're much larger than this. So it wasn't able to spawn all of his milt, but it was able to spawn a little bit. And I spoke about that balloon. This one still has some air in it. That is the air bladder in the back. So I'm going to pull it out a little bit and I'll see if we can find the... If you can't see, you got to move to somewhere where you can see.
There's milk spilling onto the box.
Alrighty, so I'm just moving the swim bladder here, and behind the swim bladder,
No apron.
we have, yeah, that's right, there's no eggs in this one because this is a male. And males are just as important. We need both in order to be able to fertilize eggs for the next generation. So behind the swim bladder, behind the milk sacs, we have 2 kidneys that lay along the spine. These kidneys, we also have 2 kidneys, but these kidneys are super important because they help regulate the amount of salt in the salmon. So
Osmoconformer? No, it's an osmoregulator.
Osmoregulator, yeah. So osmoregulation. So with these salmon, they go from freshwater to saltwater and freshwater again, right? So it's super important for these kidneys to be able to regulate that salt. Yeah. So let's see, we have the liver up here, nice big liver. I'm going to pull it out because it is so big and see if I can get up to the heart.
How come this one's super big and the other one is...
The other one had a big liver. It was just mushy.
Yeah, the other one was like very...
So when I looked inside and it started to kind of disintegrate on me, I went, probably time for a different
Fish.
salmon.
Yeah.
So the heart is contained in a special chamber.
Why does it change its color?
That's a really good question. So it changes its color from the ocean. So something was actually trying to get at its heart. It bit right at its heart. So this is all that's left. Normally it looks not similar to a human heart, but a little bit smaller. Yeah, maybe closer to a chicken heart. So something went in right for its throat and went and grabbed its heart. These fish change their color when they head up. They leave salt water and they move into fresh water. They start to change into their spawning colors.
Because
So
I'm not trying to say.
when these fish move up here, let's see if I can find the stomach for you.
Good.
What do you think it's half the salmon?
I think it died very recently.
Yeah.
Maybe yesterday or this morning.
I think it might be like... I feel like this morning...
So can you say the animals come at night? The animals come at night. So here we have the stomach. That's the pegboard seca. Remember, that's that spaghetti that we talked about.
No.
So the stomach is here, and it's empty.
They don't eat.
They don't eat. That's right. So that's just like the change in color. So when they move from the saltwater to the freshwater, they start to break down the lipids or the fats in their bodies in order to have energy. So that's why they don't eat. So they need to have as much room in their body as possible in order to make room for all of the eggs. Sockeye can lay up to 4,000 eggs or their milk sacs.
So are you saying when the fertilizing happens after the eggs are laid?
That's a really good question. So what will happen is the female will dig her red or her nest with her tail. That's another indicator of a female salmon up here. She'll often have a much rougher looking tail because she's spent it cleaning out the gravel, getting rid of that silt and making sure that it's all ready for her red or her nest. And then they will actually go up next to each other. The female and the male will go up next to each other. They'll quiver next to each other. They'll open their mouth, and that gives the male the sign that it's time to release their sperm. So she'll release her eggs, he'll release the sperm at the same time, and there's only about 15 seconds for that sperm to be able to meet the eggs before the eggs close up once they hit water. So it's a really, really, really fast process. Really good question though. And A lot of males, there's something called jacking. They're males that have developed earlier, so they're smaller and they can kind of come in and they're very sneaky about it. They can come in and they can fertilize multiple females. So they'll swoop in and males, one reason why they have these hooked noses is because they'll try and come in and fertilize other females' eggs, and so those males have to fight with each other in order to protect their red.
That's
and
why
their
they are
female.
cheating in the water.
What's that?
Why they are cheating each other
Yeah,
in the water.
absolutely. So you're seeing it out in the water, you're seeing them chase each other, fight each other out there. Yep. And you'll see their backs kind of chasing after each other. So
I feel like an otter got to this thing at night.
yeah, please close your eyes. Or turn around. So they can actually move their eyes all around, remember? So they can see behind them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're
I'm
welcome.
So impressed.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Some salmon, by the time they get here, they're so tired, they're so ready to spawn, especially now, right? It's really hot out, the water's really low. It could be that they'll get here, they'll spawn, and then they'll die. But for the most part, they'll try, and the females will try and protect their red for as long as possible. So maybe about a week after they spawn, they'll try and protect their red, and the males will go off and try and fertilize other females, and then they'll die.
But they still don't eat.
But they don't eat the whole time.
Enter the freshwater.
As soon as they enter the freshwater, they don't eat. So can you imagine driving from Vancouver to Kamloops without a snack and maybe running a 30-kilometer race every single day? They migrate about 30 kilometers a day when they come up to the Adams, and they don't eat that entire time.
And how many days are we talking about?
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's about 2 weeks, 14 days. Yeah. It's been a little bit longer this year because they traveled up here, but now they're folding and they're waiting. But yeah, it's about 2 weeks.
The Romanian
How much weight?
Animals, the bears, eagles.
Really?
Yeah, without enemies. Yeah.
So yeah, that was a really good question. So what happens? So one of the characteristics of a salmon is they die after they spawn. Some people feel really sad about that. However, it's a beautiful thing. So these salmon, we saw that for those of you who saw that other salmon was decomposing, very stinky, right? So bacteria is going on that salmon, it's starting to decompose. There's gonna be bugs in the water that rely on that salmon for food. Nutrition, so they're gonna get nutrients from that. These salmon will lay their eggs, they'll become fry the following year. Those fry will actually eat the bugs that survive based on their parents. And another thing, in this area, it's something called a salmon forest. So they've found chemicals, nutrients, isotopes from the ocean in the trees up here. And about 70% of the forests in BC and Alaska rely on nutrients from salmon.
And I also heard like
How many
they still keep their fresh until next spring when the eggs grow up. They eat the body like, to get the nutrition reduction.
Not quite the body, but the nutrients that are in the water, the trees that have relied on it, the bugs that have eaten these fish. Yeah, it's all part of the cycle.
So how many kind of salmons except for sockeye?
What's that?
I mean, except how many type of salmons, right?
So that's a great question.
Yeah.
So up here, in total, we have 5 Pacific salmon. So we have sockeye that you mentioned, we have coho, chinook, chum, and pink. And in the waters here, the only one that doesn't spawn up here, they don't spawn past Mission Bridge, is chum. So we have the sockeye right now.
Yeah.
We have coho, which were here a little bit earlier. That was that really big fish that is out in the water now decomposing. It's a lot larger. We have coho, they'll be here a little bit later. And they're harder to see, they're very sneaky, they're very elusive. And then we have pinks, which come only on the odd year. So they were here last year and they'll be here again next year, but they won't be here this year.
Okay. So what the black one is a different kind of, right? The black.
It's the big ones, the big black ones are Chinook.
Chinook.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
How much is the weight loss during this journey?
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
Because you mentioned 60 days no eat.
They don't eat, so and they are breaking down their body. So
Yeah.
you'll notice they get
Weight
quite
loss.
skinny by the time they get here. So if people are fishing salmon, they usually like to get them closer to the ocean